zone speeds, you'll get a warning to help you remember to slow down and keep the road safe for workers and other drivers. Thank you to legislative leaders and industry partners for creating the Indiana Safe Zones program to keep Hoosiers safe and for making Indiana a leader in road safety. Indiana Safe Zones. Safe speeds for everyone.
This is a message from the Indiana District Council of Labor's International Union of North America and affiliated locals.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment, and this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And good afternoon and welcome to the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. Glad you're with us on what turned out to be a spectacular afternoon. Tell you what, it was a little chilly this morning. It is great out there now. A lot of hustle and bustle downtown, including right here on the Circle, the beautiful WIBC studios on the fourth floor looking down over Monument Circle. They're finally getting some progress done on Monument Circle. They've had the steps and the fountains under construction for quite some time. And I'll tell you what, I'm a homer. You know me. I'm from Indy. This has been my home, this area, for all my long life. And Circle has always had a really important place in my heart. And it's a little tough. I mean, it's nice to see it being renovated, nice to see it being kept in good shape, but they've had it torn up forever. But I'll tell you what, they're making some progress. A couple of the fountains on the east and west side facing Market Street are now full and running. They're getting the steps on the north and south side back into shape. So anyway, that's just exciting for me. I want to get into on the show tonight the fact, first of all, this week, in fact, yesterday, I believe, is the 6-year anniversary. And I posted this on my social media. If you want to check it out on Twitter or X, you go to @GuyRelford. You can see exactly what I'm talking about. In fact, I posted a link to the law itself. But this is the 6-year anniversary of the signing of what was then called House Bill 1284. And it sticks in my mind so prominently for so many different reasons. First of all, because it's had a lasting effect. It actually affects literally millions of Hoosiers every single day, potentially. And there are a whole lot of facets to it. There were a lot of different elements to House Bill 1284. We had a number of different individual bills get filed back in 2019 in that session of the General Assembly. And keep in mind, we're still fighting like hell for constitutional carry. But we also knew that we needed to lay some foundation to sort of build up to it to where we could eventually get constitutional carry or permitless carry passed here in Indiana. So we wanted to continue to lay a foundation for that. But in the meantime, there were several other elements of Indiana law that when you looked at the ability to carry a firearm, to use force in self-defense, to use lawful and justified force in self-defense, there were a lot of different issues that really needed to be addressed, that needed to be improved upon. And that's what House Bill 1284 did. And what happened, we ended up calling it the Omnibus Gun Bill. That wasn't its official title by any means. I think it ended up just being called Firearm Matters at the end of the day for the title of the bill, because a number of different bills that got filed with different authors in terms of, one was introduced in the House by Representative Jim Lucas. Another was introduced in the House by Representative Ben Smalls. In fact, three of them were. One was a sort of a rewrite and reintroduction of a bill that had originally been proposed and introduced a couple of years earlier by Senator Jack Sandlin from right here in Indianapolis. And we lost Senator Sandlin here a year and a half or so ago, and he was a great champion for Second Amendment rights. He was a great human being. And I admired Senator Sandlin a lot. I had a lot of great conversations with him. But we were able to take a bill that he introduced a couple of sessions before and finally get it passed in 2019. And here we are at the anniversary of this. But I had a lot of involvement in this. And I really want to make sure that people recognize, because, every now and then we get frustrated with the General Assembly. Obviously, there's a tremendous amount of frustration going on right now with the Indiana General Assembly, particularly the Republican leadership. I think it may be focused a little bit more on Republican leadership in the Senate than the House, but frankly, both bear certainly the responsibility, and that's over the budget this year and property taxes. And Lord knows you hear a lot about property taxes and the budget right here on WIBC. That's not really a central topic here on the Gun Guy Show. I'm frustrated. I wanted to see more property tax relief than what we saw. But on 2A issues, Second Amendment issues, we fought like hell for constitutional carry for 10 years. And we kept getting stifled, a lot like the people, directly involved in the fight for property tax relief this year. I know they're frustrated. I know they're angry. And the urge, certainly, and in some cases, the practice is to lash out and criticize. And I get that. And I did my fair amount of that myself in the context of constitutional carry when we kept trying to get it passed and we couldn't quite make it happen. But I'm going to talk about what we went through year after year to ultimately get constitutional carry passed. Also talk about the specifics of House Bill 1284 in 2019. And again, it's near and dear to my heart because I was right in the middle of it. So what was House Bill 1284 in 2019? It was, again, the kind of conglomeration of a number of different bills, but it had certain elements to it, 2 or 3 of which were just so dramatically important. One was a law that I wrote, and we called it the Self-Defense Immunity Law. And why did we need, why was the passage of this bill so incredibly important for Hoosiers? And listen, you can argue that it doesn't impact hundreds of thousands or millions of people like something like property tax would do, and you'd be completely correct. It doesn't. It may impact only a few dozen people a year, but those people that it impacts, it affects so dramatically and in fact changes the culture of self-defense in Indiana. So what are we talking about? We're talking about the fact that for too long, not just in Indiana, but all across the country, and it still happens all across the country, that you could defend yourself or defend your family with lawful and justified force and self-defense. That is, do what is absolutely legal for you to do, as justified by the Indiana self-defense statute. You could do what was absolutely lawful and justified, but still get sued. Still get sued in civil court. And how does that work? For instance, if you don't get prosecuted for a crime, how can you get sued in civil court? Well, there's the easy answer to that, and we have some very public, very obvious examples of exactly what we're talking about. To get convicted of a crime, let's say I'm walking down the street, someone comes up to me and says, "Give me your wallet." I say no. They flash a knife. I pull my gun, and I shoot them dead. All right? Very plausible scenario. We have a lot of muggings right here in Indianapolis, so I shoot them dead. So the police come and look at it, and they say, well, it looks to us like this is lawful and justified. This looks to be justified under the Indiana self-defense statute. If you want to look up the Indiana self-defense statute and read it exactly what it says yourself, there's a lot of misunderstanding. That's why I teach my gun law class every 6 weeks or so, that you hear me pitching all the time here on the Gun Guy Show. A lot of people don't understand when they can use deadly force in self-defense. But if you want to read the whole thing and just Google this, the first result will be the result of a mathematical formula. The second result will be the Indiana statute. It's 35-41-3-2. Just put that in Google, 35-41-3-2. And the Indiana self-defense statute will come right up. But if the police look at it and the prosecutor's office looks at it and says, it looks to me like this is lawful and justified, and they do not bring criminal charges against you, does that mean someone can't sue you in most states in the country, including Indiana before, say, 2019? Well, no, it doesn't mean that at all. What if you even go to trial and you're found not guilty in a criminal case where people want to allege that you committed a crime. You committed a crime like murder because you intentionally killed someone. That's the definition of murder in Indiana. It's the intentional killing of a human being. And Indiana, unlike a lot of states, doesn't have murder 1 and murder 2 and murder 3. We just have murder. We also have voluntary manslaughter. We have reckless homicide. We have some lower level crimes, but we have murder. It's the intentional killing of a human being. Well, if a guy flashes a knife at me, says, give me your wallet, I say no, I pull my gun and I shoot him, was that the intentional killing of a human being? Yes, absolutely it is. So why isn't it murder? Well, it's not murder because the self-defense statute, the one I just gave you, 35-41-3-2, says that certain acts are justified in self-defense if certain conditions are met. So let's say I get a rogue liberal prosecutor, just hates people carrying guns, prosecutes me for murder. And I go in at trial, and the jury believes that I acted in lawful and justified force in self-defense. Does that mean someone can't sue me? No, it doesn't mean that at all. What's the most famous example of exactly what we're talking about? O.J. O.J. was found not guilty. Now, a lot of us look at that criminal trial and think it was a bit of a farce and completely screwed up by the prosecutor's office there in L.A. County. Remember Christopher Darden and Marsha Clark and that whole fiasco up against the Dream Team and pretty much got their ass handed to them. But did that mean O.J. couldn't be sued? No, he was sued, and he was sued successfully. He was found not guilty in a criminal trial, but he could still be sued. Why is that? Why isn't that something like double jeopardy? Well, double jeopardy, first of all, only applies, and there's a constitutional prohibition against double jeopardy. That only refers to criminal prosecution. Doesn't refer to civil lawsuits. So it's not double jeopardy. Well, wait a minute. A jury determined that O.J. was not guilty. How could he still be sued? Because the burden of proof is different, is the short answer. You have to be proven guilty beyond a reasonable doubt in a criminal case. And if a jury can't find you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, does that necessarily mean you're innocent? No, it just means the prosecutor's office, the state, the government failed to prove beyond a reasonable doubt that you're guilty. That's why people say, oh, he was found innocent at trial. Well, not exactly. He was found not guilty, meaning the state didn't meet their burden of proof. In a civil case, in virtually every state, you only need a preponderance of the evidence. That's just the greater weight. That's 50.001%. It's not beyond a reasonable doubt. It's just more likely than not. So if the state can't prove you're guilty beyond a reasonable doubt, that doesn't prevent someone from suing you. And just as happened in the O.J. case, finding that more likely than not you're responsible and or negligent and or intentionally inflict bodily injury, et cetera, depending on what legal theory you want to advance at those kind of lawsuits. So you can be found not guilty, or you can not be prosecuted at all, and you can still be sued. And listen, I've been to a gazillion cases, or classes, I should say. I've been to a gazillion classes where, in fact, I talk about out at Front Sight, which is now a different place. Now they call it Prairie Fire or something like that. But it's outside of Las Vegas, about an hour outside of Vegas. I've been to all kinds of classes. I've been to shotgun classes, pistol classes, rifle classes. It's kind of a second-tier training facility anymore. Gunsight out in Paulden, Arizona, I put way above the rest. It's the premier training facility in the country. And I love having taken a number of gunsight classes as well. But going out to Prairie Fire, or Front Sight, as they used to call it, I remember they give you this lecture, and it was mandatory first time you go out there. And I would a lot of times sit through it more than once when I was out there taking different classes. And it would talk about winning battles 2 and 3. What are we talking about? Winning battles 2 and 3. Well, the first battle is the gunfight or the knife fight or whatever it may be. Somebody comes, threatens you with a knife, threatens you with a gun, demands your wallet, tries to kidnap your wife, whatever it is. And you have to win that fight. You have to win that battle. That's why a lot of us carry every day. All right, so I win that fight. Bad guy loses. He's dead, I'm alive. What are battles 2 and 3? Well, the second battle is whether you get prosecuted for a crime. That's between you and the prosecutor's office, with the police in between acting as investigators to turn over information to the prosecutor's office that ultimately makes a decision of whether to prosecute you or not. And then battle number 3, after you are or are not prosecuted for a crime, is a civil lawsuit. And I've sat through that lecture, and I just always remember this, sitting out at front site out in Pahrump. For some reason, I love saying that. Pahrump, Nevada. It's outside Pahrump, but it's out in the desert. And it'd be this big lecture. And there'd be usually a police officer giving this lecture. And he'd say, let me just tell you, if you use force in self-defense, and particularly if you use deadly force in self-defense, you're going to get sued. Mark my word, every single time. Doesn't matter if it's justified. I don't care if somebody breaks in your house in the middle of the night or someone, is attempting to murder you on the street. If you use deadly force in self-defense, you're going to get sued. Just plan on it. And I remember sitting there in that lecture out in Pahrump, Nevada, and thinking to myself, why is that okay? Why do we all just nod and go, oh, yeah, well, yeah, you're going to get sued. It's going to happen. And the fact that there are dirtbag plaintiffs' lawyers out there, personal injury lawyers, who will sue and say, well, it's going to cost you $200,000 or $300,000 or some other exorbitant amount to defend this lawsuit. You ought to just settle it. Or what if it happens in your home so you have homeowners insurance that may defend you with insurance? They may indemnify if you're found liable in a civil case. Well, now what have you got? $300,000, $400,000, $500,000 in homeowners coverage? Now they go, hey, we'll take that $300,000. We'll settle tomorrow. Well, sure, I bet you would. But now you're embroiled in a civil lawsuit, even though you were never prosecuted or you were prosecuted and found not guilty. And so, again, the mentality's always been, I hear this all the time. You'll see it on social media. Well, you're going to get sued. Just plan on it. You're going to get sued. That's what led to a big component. It was just really one part, but it was one component of House Bill 1284. I'll get into more detail on that and take your calls. Give us a call. Join the discussion, 317-239-9393, 317-239-9393. Join the discussion. We'll be right back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
This May, you've got a chance to see what an IndyCar driver's dream garage really looks like. WIBC's Tales from the Track, presented by Relay Indiana, takes you inside Graham Ray Hall Performance, a high-octane hangout where racing meets luxury. Hammer and Nigel sit down with Graham for great stories, laughs, and insights from someone who grew up on the hallowed grounds of the IMS. But this backstage pass to speed, style, and surprises is sold out. The only place to register to win tickets is WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. And our most popular classes are Essentials of Indiana Gun Law class. We've got the next one of those coming up on May 10th. It's May 10th at Indy Arms, conveniently located at 2550 East 55th Street, just a block east of Keystone on 55th. It's going to be May 10th. This is 4.5 to 5 hours of the most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner. We'd love to see you there. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. You can register right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
You love spring and Indies, so don't spend it painting. Do what your neighbor Mike did. He called Rhino Shield.
Our home is basically a contemporary, and we just started noticing that the paint was just fading and just looked like garbage. We had received a postcard from Rhino Shield, and we decided to take a look at it.
Rhino Shield's formulated for our specific climate here in Indiana.
The process with Rhino Shield and their crew, they were just very conscientious. We had problems in the past with painters. They leave debris and everything. Well, we didn't have that with Rhino Shield.
Way better than paint, backed by a 25-year warranty. Right now, get the guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield for 15% off the regular price.
The thing about Rhino Shield, the heat gain has been reduced, and we save $70 a month. You don't hear that about any type of paint.
Here's Rhino Shield's Shane Smith.
This offer is limited, so call me at 888-RHINO-41. That's 888-RHINO-41.
Don't paint.
Don't vinyl.
Go Rhino.
Paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Greetings, Boomtown. Ever since this neighborhood switched to Xfinity Internet,
the Wi-Fi is booming!
Xfinity combines the power of internet and mobile with one all-in plan.
So we've all got lightning-fast, secure Wi-Fi speeds at home and on the go with Wi-Fi Power Boost from Xfinity Mobile.
You get the most reliable Wi-Fi with our best in-class equipment and unlimited data included. Plus, add an unlimited mobile line.
All for only $40 a month for 1 year. To celebrate this combo, we're mashing our shows together.
It's everything you need all in one plan. Plus, learn how to get a free 5G phone with a premium unlimited line. Now, sit back and relax with the smooth, relaxing sound
of face-melting acid metal!
Brilliant.
Visit Xfinity.com to learn more. Ends June 23rd with paperless billing and autopay stored bank account. Restrictions apply. Xfinity Internet gateway required. Taxes, fees extra. After 1 year rate increases to $110 a month. After 2 years, regular rates apply. Actual Wi-Fi speeds vary. Most reliable Wi-Fi based on Open Signal Awards USA. Fixed Broadband Experience Report, August 2024.
With everything going on, it may be hard to imagine one more thing to worry about. But clothes dryers cause thousands of house fires every year. And dirty ductwork in your home is filling the air you breathe with pollutants and allergens. Should you worry? Not if you contact Safe Dryer and Air Duct Solutions, a locally owned, veteran-operated business offering fast, reliable duct and dryer vent cleaning services, making your home safer and your air healthier. WIBC listeners save 10% off any service. One less thing to worry about. Go to safedads.net.
Johns Hopkins University has found that just mild hearing loss doubles your risk of dementia, so hearing loss isn't something to ignore.
But hearing aids are so expensive and ugly.
Not anymore. Meet Audien Hearing. You can get nearly invisible hearing aids without a prescription starting at $98 a pair, and they're ready to use right out of the box. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, and with over 1 million customers, Audien is easy to trust. Visit audienhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
It's the Bash Sale, the biggest automotive sale in history. Your local Bill Estes dealerships are coming in hot with deals on trucks you don't want to miss. We have a huge selection of trucks at one easy online stop. Brand new Chevy, Ford, GMC, Jeep, Ram, and Toyota trucks with a massive pre-owned selection too. Plus, our fair and direct upfront pricing means what you see is what you pay. Shift into savings during the Bash Sale, only at Bill Estes dealerships, and drive away in your dream truck today. Online at BillEstesTrucks.com.
This is Danny Reinhardt with Reinhardt Heating and Cooling. Give us a call for any of your heating and cooling needs. We're here to serve you. 317-745-4526.
Reinhardt is your trusted local independent American Standard Air dealer.
When you're high, you feel different. But if you feel different, you drive different. So don't drive high. Brought to you by NHTSA and the Ad Council.
Second to none on the Second Amendment. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So the mentality has been, really all across the country, and certainly in Indiana prior to 2019 anyway, that, hey, if you use even lawful and justified force in self-defense, you're still going to get sued. There's going to be some scumbag lawyer out there that'll think they can extort a settlement out of you and file a lawsuit. And the law as it existed prior to 2019, there was a kind of a vague provision in the self-defense statute. That's that number I gave you earlier, 35-41-3-2, that said, no person in this state shall be held in any legal jeopardy whatsoever for the lawful use of force as discussed herein. I'm paraphrasing, but that's pretty much exactly it. So no legal jeopardy of any kind whatsoever. So a lot of us argued, a lot of lawyers argued, self-defense lawyers like me argued that, well, legal jeopardy certainly has to include civil liability. And if you use lawful force, then you shouldn't be held in any legal jeopardy, including civil liability. That means there's immunity. The problem was that the plaintiff's lawyers would just simply say, well, it wasn't the lawful use of force as set out in the statute. It was excessive. It was unnecessary. Someone just overreacted. It wasn't necessary to use the force that you used, including deadly force if that applied. So who has to decide issues like that? Those are factual issues. Who decides factual issues? A jury decides factual issues. How long does it take for a jury to decide the factual issues in a typical civil lawsuit? A couple of years, 2, 3, 4 years, longer. I've had civil lawsuits go 7 and 8 years before. And you're defending a lawsuit, you're paying lawyers, assuming there's no insurance. And we'll talk about carry insurance here later in the show. But assuming there's no insurance, you're paying for this out of your pocket. And at some point, people just give up. They say, you know what, I'd rather pay these SOBs off than have to defend the lawsuit. And that's what they're planning on. It's literally extortion. And so what's the response to that? What can we do about that? And what was my involvement? Well, I've now represented a number of people who use lawful and justified force and self-defense. In fact, the number is now 11. For the number of people that I've represented as a lawyer that have used justified deadly force in self-defense and defense of third persons. Some of those people, not all, some of those people were sued. And for instance, and I was only involved for a short period of time as a defense lawyer, and I was later brought back in as an expert witness on the justified use of force in self-defense. But if you remember a shooting at the Kroger at 71st and Georgetown, where a person came in to rob the Kroger, and at one point it took a female employee and put her in a headlock and was trying to force her back into an office. And an assistant manager at that Kroger was carrying, in violation of Kroger policy at the time for its employees, but a gentleman named Elijah Elliott. Turns out Elijah is a relatively common name for heroes here in Indiana. But Elijah Elliott was carrying a gun against company policy, but because there had been other robberies in the area, he wisely and ultimately heroically had his gun available and used it to challenge this robber who was hurting forcefully an employee back into an office for who knows what reason, challenged him. The robber then charged at Eli, and he used lawful and justified force in self-defense. Was never prosecuted for a crime. But later on, the mom of the dead criminal sued Kroger, saying, well, they had a no-gun policy for their employees, but they were negligent for not enforcing it. And so Kroger was liable, essentially because when you boil it right down, and I said this to the Indy Star before I got brought in to the case in a professional capacity, I said essentially the theory of the mom of the dead robber's case, the theory was Kroger failed to provide a safe working environment for her son, the armed robber. That was real. You boil it right down, that's what they're talking about in that lawsuit. Then the female security guard, whose life was at risk, who was being forced back into the office, she filed a lawsuit against both Elijah Elliott and Kroger, saying she was now physically traumatized because she'd been forced to witness a deadly shooting, and she now was not herself. She suffered an emotional injury, and Kroger and Eli owed her money. And Eli originally hired me to defend that. We then got Kroger to pick up his defense. They had their own lawyer here in Indianapolis, so I promptly worked myself into getting fired in that case. But that lawyer ultimately brought me back in as an expert witness on the use of force, so I got to be involved. But when you look at that situation, it's disgusting. It's ridiculous. Someone's committing an armed robbery. You have the right to defend yourself against the commission of a forcible felony. If you look up that statute I gave you earlier, you'll see it right in the statute. Is armed robbery a forcible felony? Of course it is. Now, ultimately, there was some question as to whether he actually had a gun or not, but he threatened people saying he had a gun. And so everybody was completely justified in believing his threat was true. So if you have a reasonable belief you're preventing a forcible felony because someone threatens you, whether it's their finger inside a pocket or it's an actual gun, you don't have to be a fortune teller and tell the difference. If you reasonably believe you're preventing a forcible felony, you can use lawful and justified force in self-defense, which is exactly what happened in that case. So how can Eli still get sued? As ridiculous as that is. Well, I was involved in that, and that's what's got me thinking about we really need to change the law. But another case I was involved in a couple years later is what really set me off and said, you know what? We're changing the law. We're not only getting this ridiculous lawsuit dismissed, we're going to change the law. When we come back from this break, I'll talk about what that case involved and how we used that subsequent case to do exactly that. We changed the law. It was a big deal. And that's what we're celebrating the 6th anniversary of this week. And it was kind of cool because that bill was actually signed on the main stage at Lucas Oil Stadium they had set up as part of the NRA annual meeting in April 2019. And Governor Holcomb signed that bill right there on the stage. I was right there in the first couple of rows. And the hero of that bill and the motivation for that bill beautiful young lady named Kirsty Janin at the time was right there with us, and that was huge, and that was a big deal, and that's what we'll go into when we come back, as well as taking your calls, 317-239-9393. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Life moves fast.
Another new directive from Donald Trump.
President Trump will not be deterred to make our federal government more efficient.
So does the news.
We expect those meetings to take place very soon.
Decisions made today.
I'm not a big fan of the Atlantic.
No threats to national security.
Could impact you tomorrow.
Accountability and transparency.
What's next?
You never know what's going to happen.
Need to know what happened.
We're already tracking it. Stay in the know while you're on the go on 93 WIBC.
Employee pricing. That's right. At Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield, you can get employee pricing across a full lineup of your favorite trucks and SUVs. Their entire American inventory has been marked with employee pricing, so you pay what they pay on F-150s, on Super Duties, Explorers, all of them with employee pricing. And if you need something a little smaller but still want to be able to haul the crew and cargo around, the Edge is the perfect choice for you. And you'll definitely enjoy the excellent fuel economy. Plus, it's loaded with safety features. Get more to your door with Andy Moore Ford. Simply purchase your vehicle online and they'll deliver it to you. And if you need to sell or trade your current vehicle, the time has never been better. Andy Moore Ford will pay top dollar for your used vehicle, even if you don't buy from them. Employee pricing on all your favorite Fords are at Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield, 2713 East Main Street in Plainfield, or online at Andy Moore Ford, MOHR.
I love Andy.
AndyMooreFord.com.
Oh no, stomach issues again?
Stomach issues?
Who are you?
Your pancreas. I could be the real reason for your diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose oily stools.
I thought it was my stomach.
People often do, but any of these symptoms could mean having a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and speak with your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Lanny went to college and racked up huge debt.
A little bit over $100,000.
For a degree he couldn't use? Now what?
I had a friend that went to my computer career.
They even helped him get hired immediately after graduation.
One of the things I love about IT is that you can work from anywhere you want.
You could become an IT pro in just months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
It worked for me, and I know it can work for you.
This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
This hour on 93 WIBC, powered by Reinhardt Heating and Cooling, your American Standard air dealer in Hendricks County.
Fox News, I'm Jane Fergus. Pope Francis was laid to rest today with more than 250,000 mourners attending his funeral at St. Peter's Square.
A beautiful and moving 2-hour service was carried out in a handful of languages and took place on the steps of St. Peter's, with screens streaming the service for the faithful packed across nearby streets to be able to follow along.
It's Fox's Alex Hogan reporting from Vatican City. The man accused of killing United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson pleaded not guilty.
Before he pleaded not guilty, Luigi Mangione walked in with a tan prison jumpsuit and his feet shackled, according to our courtroom producer, who said he looked relaxed, despite federal prosecutors making it clear they'll seek the death penalty if he's convicted.
America's listening to Fox News.
Look around. Spring is here. And no matter what you're planning or planting, Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. So spring forward in a Hubler quality pre-owned vehicle, including Chevys, Fords, Toyotas, GMCs, Buicks, Nissans, Acuras, Mazdas, Hondas, and many more. All makes, all models, certified vehicles, luxury vehicles, even the hard-to-find ones. Shop any of Hubler's 13 locations and choose from over 2,000 vehicles. Every Hubler Q-certified vehicle is covered by a 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty, plus a 128-point vehicle inspection and a free Carfax history report. So spring forward, knowing Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. Visit Hubler.com or any of our 13 locations.
Hubler's got you covered. Cover me!
Warranty on select models less than 9 years old.
The deals and specials are sizzling hot.
It's the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show next Saturday and Sunday at the Monroe County Fairgrounds in Bloomington. The best dealers in the region, hundreds of tables, just $6 for adults. Kids 12 and under get in free. Must be 18 or accompanied by an adult. Buy, sell, trade. Next Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Monroe County Fairgrounds in Bloomington. For more info, visit centralindianagunshows.com.
Denny Smith here for Sundown Gardens. The greenhouse is filled with great spring color and tropical plants. Sundown Gardens is your one-stop shop this spring for all things home and garden. Hanging baskets, bedding flats, tropicals, vegetables, herbs, herbaceous perennials, trees, shrubs, home decor, and more. If you need it for your home or landscape, Sundown Gardens has it. Now's the time to get your home beautified for all summer. Sundown Gardens, located on the corner of Spring Mill Road and 186th Street in Westfield.
The show about gun rights, gun safety, and responsible gun ownership. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So I'm talking about a situation that actually happened in 2017. And it's really a classic example of the lawful and justified use of force to defend a third person. Because the self-defense statute says, here in Indiana, that you can use the same level of force to defend a third person as you can to defend yourself. And you don't have to know them. They don't have to be a family member. You can defend a total stranger, a third person, exactly the same way you can defend yourself. You can prevent the commission of a forcible felony against a third person. You can prevent serious bodily injury to a third person. Total stranger. Doesn't matter. It's legal and justified. Now, the Castle Doctrine is different. I can't defend my neighbor's home the same way I can defend my own home. In other words, if I just see someone breaking a window to break into my neighbor's house, and I don't see that they're threatening anyone, I don't know that anyone's home, I'm not defending against that serious bodily injury. I'm just preventing them from climbing through a broken window into my neighbor's home. I can't just shoot them from my own window. I can defend my own home against an unlawful entry. That's the Castle Doctrine. But the rules are different from your own home versus someone else's home. But in terms of preventing serious bodily injury or preventing a forcible felony, you can defend a third person exactly the same way you can defend yourself. And that's exactly what happened in the case of, then her name was Kirstie Janin, now Kirstie Phillips, and Kirstie became a good friend of mine. I was thrilled. She got to meet my wife, and they got along great. And we were able to. We had a dinner together around the NRA annual meeting that happened in 2019, and that was a fantastic event. But this is a wonderful lady who turned out to be a hero. But for her whole life, she's been a Christian lady. She's been someone who takes being a mother very, very seriously. She had, at the time, 2 teenage daughters that she was raising by herself as a single mom. And so what happened, and why did Kirstie end up hiring me as her attorney back in 2017? Well, Kirstie lived in Rising Sun, Indiana. And you may know Rising Sun from the casino that's down there, although I just heard recently they're talking about moving that casino, but a good-sized casino right there, because the town sits right there on the Ohio River, not too far from Cincinnati. And it's a beautiful little area. It sits in Ohio County, the smallest by population county in Indiana. And if you're a legal nerd like me, it's also interesting in that Indiana has 92 counties, but we only have 91 judicial districts. Judicial districts each have their own judges and their own prosecutors and their own courtrooms, etc. But because of their population being so small, Ohio and Dearborn counties are actually combined into one judicial district. So we have 92 counties, but 91 judicial districts. A little bit of legal trivia for you there. But Rising Sun and the Ohio County Courthouse is just gorgeous. It sits right on the Ohio River, little park out back. But what happened in Rising Sun, Indiana in 2017? Well, it's a fairly small town, a very small town. And Kirsty lived in a somewhat rural area, and her mom was her next-door neighbor. And one afternoon, late in the afternoon, her mom calls her and says, do you see this truck? There was like a compact pickup truck that was parked, just pulled off the street, that was blocking Kirsty's mom's driveway. By the way, if you're confused how I'm pronouncing that name, it's like Christy without the R, spelled with a K. So it's Kirsty as opposed to Christy. But Kirsty's mom says, yeah, this guy's blocking my driveway. And the guy's acting really weird. And so they're both out their windows are watching this guy, and they're talking on the phone back and forth. And the guy would get out of the truck, and he'd go back and get in the bed of his pickup truck and be digging around through a bunch of trash that was in the bed of the pickup truck. And he was picking up like cigarette cartons and shaking them and looking in them and cussing and speaking incoherently. And at one point, he sat out in the yard and took his shoes off, as I recall. And he's looking in his shoes. And who knows what he was doing, but he was acting very, very strangely. It turns out later he was high on both marijuana and meth at the time, which may explain his behavior. But they're talking back and forth, and at one point the guy gets in his truck, starts his truck, and he drives from in front of Mom's house down in front of Kirsty's house. And right about that time, they had decided to call the police. So they called police, and the closest officer that could respond was actually an off-duty conservation officer. And this is while the truck was still parked in front of Mom's house. So the conservation officer, being, it's a small town, he actually knows Kirsty, and his son, who was with him at the time because he was off-duty, knew Kirsty's daughters. So the officer brings the son to Kirsty's house and says, you know what, I'm going to let him stay inside here at your house while I go check out what this guy's doing. If he's acting weird, don't want my son to be involved. It turned out to be a good move. At this point, he goes out, pulls up behind the truck of the guy acting strangely. This guy starts to drive, comes down now in front of Kirsty's house. Conservation officer turns on the lights and sirens, initiates a stop. As soon as they stop, the person driving the car, who's acting strangely, whose name was Justin Holland, the dude high on meth and marijuana, according to autopsy reports later, gets out of his car and he's screaming and yelling incoherently at the police officer. Police officer steps out of his car and he's saying, stop, get back in your vehicle. Holland doesn't stop. He's walking up on the officer. The officer's going, stop, put your hands on the car. He doesn't do that. He walks right up and tackles the police officer. And now they're in a fight for their lives. Holland is going for the officer's gun. They're fighting over the conservation officer's gun. And Holland, it turns out, was a high school wrestler, pretty stocky guy from pictures I've seen. The officer was named Michael Powell, by the way. They're in a fight for the officer's gun. And Holland appears to be winning. He's got a hold of the gun. They're fighting over it. He's trying to force the gun around to point it directly at the conservation officer's face to shoot him with his own gun. Watching out the front window are not only Kirsty and her daughters, but the officer's son. The officer's son is watching his dad fight for his life. And at this point, he's not winning. What happened then? Why did that inspire a change in the law? We'll get into all of that right after this break. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
The pothole. Formed in colder months, tiny fissures are born. And in no time at all, they grow into big, gigantic tire killers. That's why you need Matt Baird Traffic.
Watch out on Keystone Avenue.
He'll guide you around these hidden monsters.
Yeah, might as well call it a basement.
And on to safer ground.
You don't want to be in the far left lane.
Mornings and afternoons on 93 WIBC.
1 in 6 seniors faces the threat of hunger, and millions more live in isolation. Drop off a hot meal and say a quick hello. Volunteer for Meals on Wheels by donating your lunch break at americaletsdolunch.org. This message brought to you by Meals on Wheels America and the Ad Council.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. We've got Essentials of Indiana Gun Law coming up on Saturday, May 10th It's going to be at Indy Arms, 2550 East 55th Street, just a block off of Keystone on 55th. Beautiful new indoor gun range plus retail firearms facility. Got a nice big classroom. Love to teach classes there. You can join us. It's from 9 a.m. to 2 o'clock p.m. Sometimes we end a little early, around 1:30, and we'd love to see you there. It's $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. The most important legal information you need as an Indiana gun owner, check it out at tactical-firearms.com. You can sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
Johns Hopkins University has found that just mild hearing loss doubles your risk of dementia, so hearing loss isn't something to ignore.
But hearing aids are so expensive and ugly.
Not anymore. Meet Audien Hearing. You can get nearly invisible hearing aids without a prescription starting at $98 a pair, and they're ready to use right out of the box. Rated the best hearing aids of 2025 by Forbes Health, and with over 1 million customers, Audien is easy to trust. Visit audienhearing.com. That's AUDIEN hearing.com.
It's now open. PA Jewelers at the Farmhouse in Brownsburg, right in front of Premier Arms on Green Street. You got to see the selection. Newly expanded, the gold, the diamonds, the silver, the gemstones, the local artists, and of course, that watch collection. Guys, you got to trust me on this one right here. PA Jewelers at the Farmhouse in Brownsburg, 317-456-4010. That's 456-4010. Or find them online at pajewelers.jewelry. That's pajewelers.jewelry.
Are you tired of high cable TV rates? Sign up for Dish today and get a $500 bonus offer while supplies last. Plus, lock in your price for 2 years guaranteed. Call All American Dish, your Dish authorized retailer now.
800-296-1251. 800-296-1251. That's 800-296-1251. Offers require credit qualification, 24-month commitment, early termination fee, and auto pay. Restrictions apply. Call for details.
Were you born from 1945 to 1965? People born during these years are 5 times more likely to have hepatitis C. But most people don't know they are infected. So even if you try to eat right, exercise, and take care of yourself, you can still have hepatitis C, a serious liver disease that often has no symptoms. In fact, people can live with hepatitis C for decades without feeling or looking sick. But over time, hepatitis C can cause serious health problems, including liver damage, liver failure, or even liver cancer. Getting tested is the only way to know if you're infected with hepatitis C. That's why the CDC recommends everyone born from 1945 to 1965 get a blood test for hepatitis C. Treatments are available that can cure this disease. So talk to your doctor about getting tested. It could save your life. A message from the CDC.
More tariffs later, tornadoes possible.
WIBC.com gives you more than just headlines. It's context, updates, and insight. Whether you're at work, on the move, or catching up late, the latest is already there. Stay in the know while you're on the go at WIBC.com. Your rights, your responsibilities, your guns. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show. So, when last we left our hero, Kirstie Janin was her name then, now Kirstie Phillips. Kirstie, single mom, whose teenage daughters and a conservation officer's son, the conservation officer named Michael Powell, they're all watching this battle as Officer Powell is fighting for his life and not winning against a criminal powered by meth and marijuana. I don't want to talk badly about marijuana too much. I know too many people that use it very successfully medicinally, but guy's on meth. And he's trying very hard to murder Officer Powell with his own gun and appears to be about to do that successfully. So what happened? Kirstie grabbed her own handgun, went out, and she's yelling at Justin Holland, get off him, stop, 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 get off him. He does not do so. The gun is coming around, nearly pointing at Officer Powell's face. Kissy makes the decision then to shoot Holland in the shoulder. And I think from talking to Kissy, I think maybe she'd seen maybe too many movies where she envisioned that having been shot, he would go flying off of Officer Powell because Holland was on top of Officer Powell. It's one of the reasons Powell was losing the fight. But he didn't go flying off of him. What in fact happened is the bullet ricocheted off a shoulder bone, went down, and my recollection is pierced both lungs and killed Holland on the scene. So this is the use of deadly force. And listen, if a gun's involved, consider it to be deadly force. And the local prosecutor looked at it and called her a hero because she was. She saved the life of a police officer trying to do his duty for his community. Saved the life of the father of a person who's watching the fight right there out the window. Local police called her a hero. Local prosecutor called her a hero. No criminal charges are filed. But just shy of 2 years later, and that's the statute of limitations for a personal injury lawsuit in Indiana, just shy of 2 years later, a law firm out of Cincinnati and a known ambulance-chasing PI lawyer files a civil lawsuit for millions of dollars against Kissy, saying that she overreacted. She didn't need to use deadly force. That was a motivation to change the law. We'll get back into that after we come back at the beginning of the second hour. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
If you love spring and Indy but hate the paint, do what Lynn did. She called Rhino Shield.
It is a single-wide manufactured home. We moved from our home, which we had the Rhino Shield on. Rhino Shield was what we were going to do. That was no question. We knew we were going to do it.
Rhino Shield's a ceramic coating. It's not paint, it's better.
The Rhino Shield representative came, and we discussed what we wanted done. And this time, we had the roof done as well.
Now, you can have the 25-year guaranteed protection of Rhino Shield for 15% off the regular price.
Even the people that have been a little younger than us have said they don't have to worry about getting just an everyday painter because Rhino Shield has the 25-year warranty, and we truly believe in this product.
Here's Rhino Shield's Shane Smith.
This offer is limited, so call me at 888-RHINO-41. That's 888-RHINO-41.
Don't paint.
Don't vinyl.
Go Rhino.
Never paint your house again. Rhino Shield.
Comcast Business helps turn today's small businesses into engines of modern business. It's how restaurants become reliably up and running neighborhood favorites. How retailers become seamlessly restocking, cyber-securing, must-visit shops. And how healthcare offices become the data managing caregivers that we all depend on. With reliable connectivity, enhanced cybersecurity, advanced fiber solutions, and Wi-Fi backup, Comcast Business is powering the engine of modern business. Powering possibilities.
Now through May 4th, new customers can get started with 300 megabit internet and Security Edge for $69 a month for 24 months. And ask how to get free installation on qualifying bundles. Plus, find out how to get a $500 prepaid card on a qualifying gig bundle. Call today. Restrictions apply. Not available in all areas. Requires enrollment in paperless billing and automatic payments with bank account. Equipment, taxes, and other fees extra. After 24 months, regular rates apply.
Spring is here, and Dammons is full speed ahead with endless plant production of perennials, annuals, hanging baskets, roses, and planters. Trucks are arriving with fresh trees and shrubs. Dammons' friendly staff is ready to assist you and get you the help you need. So for any of your gardening needs, experience Dammons South on Emerson Avenue and Dammons West on Rockville Road.
Dammons Lawn and Garden, Indiana's most complete garden center.
Hi, Jeff Roush for Tom Roush Lincoln. Right now,
get Lincoln's employee pricing on most all new Lincolns at Tom Roush Lincoln in Fishers. Get up to $20,000 off select 2024 Navigators, up to $8,000 off select 2024 Nautilus, or up to $7,000 off select 2024 Corsair at Tom Roush Lincoln in Fishers.
Navigator MSRP $105,575, Nautilus MSRP $61,995, Corsair MSRP $47,820. Offers good through 4/30/2025. Navigators excluded from employee pricing. Subject to credit approval. See dealer for complete offer details.
Broadcasting from the Technology Recycler Studios, this is Indy's Mobile News, 93 WIBC. WIBC HD1 Indianapolis. The news starts now.
Fox News, I'm Jane Fergus. Pope Francis was laid to rest today with more than 250,000 mourners attending his funeral at St. Peter's Square. Fox's Alex Hogan reports from Vatican City.
A beautiful and moving 2-hour service was carried out in a handful of languages and took place on the steps of St. Peter's, with screens streaming the service for the faithful packed across nearby streets to be able to follow along. In the service's homily, Cardinal Giovanni Battista Re said, quote, Pope Francis truly shared the anxieties, suffering, and hopes of this time of globalization. The guiding thread of his mission was also the conviction that the church is a home for all, a home with its doors always open.
And President Trump was there, and he squeezed in a meeting with Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Rome right ahead of Pope Francis's funeral. Stephanie Bennett has the latest from London.
According to Zelensky's office, the leaders were going to talk again, but due to tight deadlines and schedules, President Trump boarded Air Force One back to the U.S. after the funeral. The White House said, though, their discussion was very productive. On X, Zelensky said they had a good meeting and discussed a lot one-on-one and, quote, hoping for results on everything we covered, protecting lives of our people, full and unconditional ceasefire, reliable and lasting peace that will prevent another war from breaking out. Very symbolic meeting that has potential to become historic if we achieve joint results. Thank you, POTUS.
This is the first time the two have met face-to-face since that heated argument back in February at the White House. Meanwhile, in a surprising turn of events, President Trump expressed doubt today that Russian President Vladimir Putin is willing to end the war. That's just a day after saying a deal was close. America's listening to Fox News.
From around the world, Trey Yingst, joining us from Tel Aviv, Israel. To Washington. I'm Mike Emanuel. To your own backyard. If a story impacts you or your wallet, we're on it. It's the Fox News Rundown. We give every story the deeper look it deserves with must-listen interviews and smart analysis from the voices you can trust. Start your day with the Fox News Rundown. Listen and follow now at foxnewsrundown.com or wherever you get your favorite podcasts. From the Fox News Podcasts Network.
Hey, this is Trey Gowdy, host of the Trey Gowdy Podcast. Every Tuesday, you'll hear what's on my mind. Plus, every Thursday, there's a special bonus episode where we answer the questions that are on your mind. Make sure to spend your Tuesdays and Thursdays with Trey. Subscribe now at foxnewspodcast.com or wherever you download podcasts. Hope to see you.
America's listening to Fox News.
Murder suspect Luigi Mangione pleaded not guilty to federal.
93 WIBC Mobile News. On the level, on the go.
Inside IU's leadership shift. I'm Ryan Hedrick, and here's what's trending this hour.
Of course, this is bad government practice.
That's IU law professor Steve Sanders speaking with All Indiana Politics and talking about Governor Braun's decision to remove the current alumni trustees if he wants. Sanders says that decision was influenced by school president Pamela Whitten.
I'm not claiming to have any direct evidence. I don't have tape recordings of phone calls that she was making about this, but I've talked to smart people. And
you may have heard that higher education sustained some of the largest cuts in this year's budget, with 5% taken out of the state's funds for repair and rehabilitation and for operations on college campuses. In Milwaukee last night,
the final in Game 3, the Milwaukee Bucks 117, the Indiana Pacers 101.
Mark Boyle on the Elevance Health Radio Network's head coach Rick Carlisle.
We were bad on both sides of the ball.
The Pacers lead 2-1. A traffic stop, a confession, and a welfare check. Jake McDaniel reports a man pulled over in a stolen car in Illinois admitted to killing his father in Gibson County.
His name is Jonathan Fiscus. State police arrived at a home on West Dale Street, which is in Oakland City, and they found the dad, Brad Fiscus, who died at the scene. Neighbors tell officers they often hear Brad and Jonathan fight in their home. Jonathan was taken to Edgar County Jail in Illinois, and he was charged with murder.
On the level, on the go, and at WIBC.com, now your forecast from the American Standard Cooling Weather Center.
High temperatures in the low to mid 60s, winds gusting up to 25 miles an hour. Tonight, temperatures in the low 40s, and for tomorrow, mostly sunny skies. Our high temperatures warming up near 70 degrees. I'm Wish TV's Storm Track 8 meteorologist Ryan Morse for 93 WIBC.
It's the first day of the first grade, and she found a new best friend. It's a laid-back Sunday afternoon you wish would never end. The homemade taste of Bluebell and good friends gathered round. The good old days are being made right now.
Chocolate lovers are going absolutely bananas over our new Bluebell Banana Fudge. Rich milk chocolate ice cream swirled with a scrumptious banana-flavored ice cream. Your favorite banana fudge bar, now in a carton.
The good old days are being made right now. The good old days are being made right now.
Look for Bluebell ice cream at your local grocery and pick up your favorite flavor today. The financial advisor industry is a flawed system. Find out how to fight back and protect your retirement on Expedition Retirement. Sunday mornings at 7 on WIBC.
The Indianapolis Public Library. More than just books. Visit your local branch today.
A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. This is the Second Amendment. And this is the Gun Guy.
Boom, 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 boom. Bang, 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 bang. Boom, 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 boom. Bang, bang, bang.
With Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for hour number 2 of the Gun Guy Show here on 93 WIBC. If you want to join the YouTube feed, you can do that. Go to YouTube, search for WIBC. You'll see the Gun Guy Show right there. I could jump on. It's been a little weird. Well, here it goes. The video hasn't quite been in sync for when we're on the air and when we're on breaks, but I think we're getting the hang of it here now. By the way, I was just having this discussion on the chat feature there on YouTube, but we're talking about heroes, and I'll get back to the discussion of Kirstie Phillips, formerly known as Kirstie Janin, and exactly what happened in that case and how Kirstie herself heroically not only saved the life of a police officer in Rising Sun, Indiana, but helped us change the law in Indiana. And let me tell you, she gets a huge, huge amount of credit for changing the law. And I'll tell you exactly how. But talking about heroes, I am wearing, and we were just discussing this on the chat feature on YouTube today, my 2A Project T-shirt that is a fundraiser for the 2A Project, my gun rights organization, but on the front, with the permission of my friend and client Elijah Dickin, we have a cool design. We worked with a graphic designer to make this, but on the front, it's got a stopwatch off to one side, and in the middle, it says 15 seconds. I'll show it more to the YouTube feed. It says 15 seconds. In a great big graphic, and below that, in a parenthetical, it says, "Be like Eli." And on the back, it says July 17th, 2022. So what are we talking about? We're talking about the Greenwood Park Mall shooting that was an attempted mass shooting by and mass shooters, man, they're typically after notoriety. I don't discuss their names. But this particular individual walked into the Greenwood Park Mall in 2022 with a AR-15 and a whole bunch of magazines. He still had 3 magazines full in a chest rig, walked into the food court after he sat in a bathroom for over an hour and started shooting innocent people in the food court. And only 15 seconds after that mass shooting started, because Eli Dickin was a law-abiding citizen carrying a gun there in the Greenwood Park Mall, having dinner with his girlfriend in the food court, Eli Dickin drew his handgun, legally carried, and engaged the shooter starting from 43 yards away. Made 8 out of 10 shots starting from 43 yards. I know I lasered it. I know exactly where Eli was because he hired me as his lawyer afterward just to help him through the homicide investigation. 8 out of 10 shots, engaged the shooter, and that mass shooting lasted a total of 15 seconds. It is the prime example of why a law-abiding citizen at the scene of an attempted mass shooting can respond and save lives even better than police officers. And I've talked about a study that shows exactly that. And so the 15 seconds is meant to commemorate. I mean, how many people could even understand what's going on within 15 seconds in a mass shooting, much less respond and effectively neutralize a threat? Now, 3 innocent people lost their lives in that 15 seconds, and I never want to minimize that. So I always have to remember that. But what a hero. By the way, some knucklehead on the chat just said, well, the average gunfight takes about 15 seconds. Well, we're not talking about a gunfight. We're talking about a mass shooting. When somebody wanders into a school or a mall and starts killing as many people as possible, typically in gun-free zones, and yes, the Greenwood Park Mall had a policy against guns being there. Wasn't against the law to carry one there, but walk into a gun-free zone and starts killing people, the typical mass shooting lasts a hell of a lot longer than 15 seconds. Think about Columbine. Think about Parkland, Florida. Think about a horrific school shooting in Texas that went on for an hour plus. So we're not talking about a gunfight. We're not talking about somebody who walks up and tries to rob you, you pull your gun and shoot them. We're talking about a mass shooting. Fundamentally different. And for an armed civilian to stop that in 15 seconds was incredibly heroic. And an awful lot of people who carry guns every day are trained in trying to see if they could, starting from a distance of 43 yards away, have responded as quickly and accurately, as proficiently as Eli did. So I'm digressing from the story of Kisty Phillips just a bit to talk about my 15 seconds T-shirt. You want one of those? We've got them. We were back ordered for a while. We've got them back at the 2A project. We'd love to send you one. 15 seconds, be like Eli. Pretty damn cool. And you can go to the 2A project. You can see right there on the store page and get one for your very own self. We've got them back in stock, and we'll get that right out to you. And for those of you who've been waiting on them, I apologize. But let's go back to Kisty Phillips. So she sees a police officer, a conservation officer, fighting for his life right out in front of her house. She's watching this. Her daughter's watching it. The son of the police officer from Kisty's house is watching this unfold. Kisty runs out there, heroically saves the life of the police officer. She's called a hero by the cops, by the prosecutor's office. Nonetheless, just shy of 2 years later, I mean, within days of the statute of limitations ending, some ambulance-chasing law firm from Cincinnati sues her for millions of dollars. So that's in Rising Sun. And by the way, if you've ever been down there, I've been down in that area several times on a motorcycle, just when I'm out kind of wandering Indiana, to use an old license plate phrase. But I'd never been down there on business. And it's a pretty good haul. There's no good way to get to Rising Sun from Indianapolis. But what happened is, after she got sued, because this happened in her front yard, as I mentioned earlier, her homeowner's policy said, well, if you were justified in doing what you were doing, then there's coverage and we'll pay for your lawyer. By the way, if you weren't justified, then it's not covered and the liability's on your own. You have whatever, you get sued for millions of dollars, you get a jury verdict against you for $1 million because what you did was not justified. Guess what? No insurance for that. And they hired a law firm, which is a perfectly good law firm, nothing wrong with them, but they do insurance defense. Homeowners insurance defense. So what kind of cases do you typically handle if you do homeowners insurance defense? Well, dog bites and slip and falls. And listen, I'm not denigrating that. I mean, I'm sure some of those can get serious, and it doesn't mean that they're not proficient lawyers, but they weren't self-defense lawyers. And so the local FOP down there, the Fraternal Order of Police, started a GoFundMe. And the police officers themselves put this out there, and they called it Kisty's Best Defense. And they said, you know what? We want to hire a self-defense lawyer who does this for a living. And we want Kisty to have control over that lawsuit by having her own lawyer, and we don't want her to have to pay for it. So they started this GoFundMe, and they raised a bunch of money. I mean, almost $100,000. It was up into the 90s, as I recall. And then the cops, the FOP members there, actually called the NRA in Virginia and said, hey, we're looking for a self-defense lawyer in Indiana. You got any recommendations? And they described the situation. And the NRA, I'm honored to say, recommended me. So I get a call from Kirstie. I'll never forget. It was in the early evening. I had left work and I was just pulling into the Blend cigar bar. I was going to go in and have a cigar and a bourbon at the end of the day. And I'm in the parking lot. My phone rang and it was Kirstie. And she describes this situation to me, which I had not heard the news of, it being down there in Rising Sun, and said, "We're looking for the best self-defense lawyer. And we think that might be you." And she continued to sort of interview me over the phone, ultimately said, "Yes, I want to hire you." And I told her in that first conversation, and that, look, that case is over, so yes, I'm disclosing attorney-client privileged information, but Kirstie and I have both talked about this since then publicly. Is in that first conversation, I said, "Kirstie, you know what? Not only are we going to win this ridiculous lawsuit that's seeking to hold you liable for doing what was absolutely legal, but you know what? I'm tired of seeing this situation. I'm tired of people getting sued. I'm tired of that lecture I had to sit through out at Front Sight in Nevada, where some lecturer stands up and says, well, even if you're justified, you're going to get sued. Just count on it." And I remember sitting there going, that's not okay. Why does everybody consider that to be all right? We're going to use this case to change the law. I'm telling you right now, you and I, Kirstie, we're going to make it happen. And then we proceeded to do that. The first priority, of course, was to defend that lawsuit. Second priority was to change the law that ultimately led to the filing of House Bill 1284 and the signing of House Bill 1284 on the stage at the NRA annual meeting in 2019. How did we get that done? What does that bill say? We'll go into all of that when we come back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
Why is there only 3 bourbons? Why isn't it 100 bourbons in 100 days?
Because you're not paying for it.
All right, that's still good, though.
That is Tara Hastings bringing you 100 bourbons.
I trust you.
Well, thank you for that ringing endorsement.
You're good enough, you're strong enough, and gosh darn it, people like you.
If that is not in a WIBC promo by the end of the day, David Wood, program director, I'm firing everybody. I have no authority to fire anybody, but I'm doing it.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Spring showers might bring flowers, but they can also bring roof leaks. Strong winds, heavy rain can expose hidden damage, leading to costly water issues inside your home. And the longer you wait, the worse it gets. Water can seep into your attic, walls, and insulation, causing mold, rot, and expensive structural damage. The good news? Moss Roofing. They offer free inspections. Whether it's a small leak or a big roofing concern, their expert team will assess the damage and provide reliable, cost-effective solutions. With over 35 years of experience, Moss Roofing knows how to protect your home from the unpredictable spring weather. Don't wait for a minor drip to turn into a major repair. For top-notch roofing services, trust Moss Roofing to keep you dry this spring. For a job done right every single time, visit mossroofing.com. Call 317-747-3665. 317-747-3665 or go online to Moss Roofing. MOSS. mossroofing.com. Tell them Tony Katz sent you.
Guy Relford with a public service announcement. I want to talk about what's going on at the Carmel VFW. And listen, a lot of these people are my friends. I'm not a veteran. I never served, but an awful lot of my friends have, and I love supporting our veterans, including by participating in events and buying meals and cocktails at the VFW. The VFW in Carmel, which is located on Old Meridian, is having a grand opening for their new deck. And I'm going to stop by and check it out after the show. We'll make it up there. It's outdoors, I believe, and I don't speak for the VFW, and I'm going to check this out tonight. I'm hoping I can go out there and smoke a cigar out on the deck. But they're opening that up tonight, and a lot of folks are going to be there celebrating that grand opening. Would love to see you there. Check it out here this evening at the Carmel VFW, located on Old Meridian. Check it out, the Carmel VFW.
Employee pricing. That's right. At Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield, you can get employee pricing across a full lineup of your favorite trucks and SUVs. Their entire American inventory has been marked with employee pricing, so you pay what they pay on F-150s, on Super Duties, Explorers, all of them with employee pricing. And if you need something a little smaller but still want to be able to haul the crew and cargo around, the Edge is the perfect choice for you. And you'll definitely enjoy the excellent fuel economy. Plus, it's loaded with safety features. Get more to your door with Andy Moore Ford. Simply purchase your vehicle online and they'll deliver it to you. And if you need to sell or trade your current vehicle, the time has never been better. Andy Moore Ford will pay top dollar for your used vehicle, even if you don't buy from them. Employee pricing on all your favorite Fords are at Andy Moore Ford in Plainfield, 2713 East Main Street in Plainfield, or online at Andy Moore Ford, M-O-H-R. AndyMooreFord.com.
Garage door problems? Call today for service today. Garage Doors of Indianapolis services all makes of garage doors 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Call today for service today. 875-4577. Call today for service today. Get it fixed right now. Call Garage Doors of Indianapolis at 875-4577 or visit doorstoday.com.
In the morning, call 875-4577. Service today. Today.
Lanny went to college and racked up huge debt.
A little bit over $100,000.
For a degree he couldn't use? Now what?
I had a friend that went to my computer career.
They even helped him get hired immediately after graduation.
One of the things I love about IT is that you can work from anywhere you want.
You could become an IT pro in just months, including cybersecurity and the basics of AI with zero experience at mycomputercareer.edu.
It worked for me, and I know it can work for you.
This is one student's experience. Individual results vary.
I had the worst dream last night. You were in a car crash, and the kids and I were on our own. We had to move out of the house because I couldn't afford it anymore.
That's awful, hon.
My brother got life insurance from Ethos, and it only took 10 minutes. And he got $2 million in coverage for around $2 a day. It's all online. No medical exam. He just answered a few health questions right from his house.
Ethos, here we come.
Visit ethos.com/today. Ethos.com/today.
Sample rate is a 10-year term life policy for 35-year-old healthy, non-smoking male. Billed monthly.
This is Danny Reinhardt with Reinhardt Heating and Cooling. Give us a call for any of your heating and cooling needs. We're here to serve you. 317-745-4526.
Reinhardt is your trusted local independent American Standard Air dealer.
Indy Humane. Find your new best friend today. Visit indyhumane.org.
Now you've got a gun guy. Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. So, after Kirsty Janin, as her name was at the time, now Kirsty Phillips, heroically saved the life of a police officer, she gets sued. Some ambulance chasing lawyer. And with the money they raised in this GoFundMe, and by the way, I did not charge her anywhere close to the amount of money that they raised in this GoFundMe. And what was really nice, and Kirsty agreed to this, that the FOP there funded various children's charities. And so anything that they didn't end up paying for Kirsty's legal bills, everything in excess of that was going to go to these children's charities that the FOP set up. So it was a win-win all the way around. And listen, we could have spent a lot more money, but what happened? Well, we ended up getting that case dismissed. The case was voluntarily dismissed by the plaintiffs, but the way that we did that was really kind of cool, because what it is I just sat down at my desk one day, sat at the keyboard and said, all right, we have this sort of vague language in the self-defense statute that says, well, you shall not be held in any legal jeopardy for the lawful use of force as described herein. Well, we need something that makes it very clear that you have complete immunity for the lawful and justified use of force in self-defense or defense of a third person. And then we need a vehicle. We need a mechanism to get a case dismissed early, so somebody doesn't have to go through 2 and 3 and 4 years of litigation and spend $1 gazillion on lawyers to get a case dismissed at the end of the day. And so I just sat down and I just wrote what turned out to be one component of House Bill 1284, and we called it the self-defense immunity law. And it applies to both self-defense, defense of a third person. And it starts off, make it very clear that the justified use of force is defined in the statute I gave you earlier. If you want to look it up, you want to Google it, it's 35-41-3-2. That the justified use of force as set forth in that statute creates a complete civil immunity, and you can't be sued for that. And no one shall bring a lawsuit claiming injury from what was the justified use of force in self-defense. But then we said, okay, well, we don't have to go through 2 and 3 and 4 years of litigation to establish that. So we build in what we call a rebuttable presumption, which is if someone claimed self-defense and used force in self-defense, including deadly force, to defend themselves or a third person, and if they're not prosecuted for a crime as a result of that, that creates a presumption that the use of force was justified. And you can use that presumption to get a case dismissed unless the plaintiff can come forward with specific evidence to establish the use of force was not justified. And in most cases, they can't come anywhere close to establish that. And so you can then get a case dismissed on what's called summary judgment, where there's just no material fact to go to a jury. And you get a case dismissed. And then the kicker, and this is the most important part, well, creating the immunity is right up there. But as important as that is the law also says that if you get that case dismissed on the basis of the immunity, the plaintiffs who filed the lawsuit claiming injury in the Kisty Phillips case claimed injury to their next of kin, their decedent, claiming injury as a result of his criminal act, which someone defended against with lawful and justified use of force. If you get a case dismissed on the basis of legal justification, they owe the defendant back all their attorney's fees and costs. So it's a disincentive. It has a tremendous chilling effect to say, don't file this frivolous lawsuit. Because, by the way, how many lawyers' commercials have you seen on TV and radio and otherwise where they come on and they say, no fee unless we recover money for you? And that's the pitch. They'll go to someone and say, listen, your son, yes, was trying to kill a police officer, and yeah, it's not the strongest lawsuit in the world, but hey, let's take a shot. Let's go file a lawsuit. And who knows? Maybe the insurance company won't want to defend it, and they'll pay us a bunch of money. And oh, by the way, you don't have to pay a legal fee unless we recover money for you. That's that same damn commercial we've all seen over and over from lawyers. No fee unless we recover money for you. So the plaintiff sitting there says, well, there's no downside. Why not? Let's file the lawsuit. Now, because of what was passed in 2019, it now says, well, yeah, you have to reimburse all the attorney's fees to the defendant. So that same conversation, that lawyer says, well, you don't have to pay me a fee unless I recover money for you. But, oh, by the way, there's this new immunity, which means we probably can't recover, and they're probably going to get the case dismissed early on summary judgment because we can't establish any evidence that defeats the presumption because they weren't prosecuted for a crime, which means we're going to owe them all their attorney's fees back, which may be 5 or 6 figures. Yes, we may owe them $100,000 in costs for filing this lawsuit. How fundamentally different is that than, oh, no fee to me unless I recover money for you? No downside. Now there's a huge-ass downside. And that's a big deal. And that's what was signed on the stage, I believe it was April 25th, 2019, at the NRA annual meeting. And that was the bill that was absolutely motivated, inspired by the heroic acts of Kisty Phillips. And let me tell you exactly what happened there. It wasn't just that she did what she did to save an officer's life. Because she then did what a lot of people are unwilling to do. She became that citizen activist. And she came and she testified in both the House and the Senate in the committee hearings. And this was, oh man, we had the Moms Demand Action were out in force. This was before we had the 2A Project. So we didn't have the people in the 2A Project T-shirts sitting there filling up the room. It was full of red T-shirts, Moms Demand Action. And they boo and they hiss and they clap and they tell everybody what they approve of and what they don't. And they had this whole spiel going on. The bill was just about not letting criminals sue their victims or not letting the families of dead criminals sue their victims. That's all it was about. But you know what we heard over and over from Moms Demand Action, these other idiots that came in to argue against this bill? Oh, this promotes vigilante justice. This promotes a shoot first, ask questions later mentality. No. It didn't change what force is justified and what's not. If you shoot first, ask questions later, and you use force that was not justified, you go to prison. And you can still be sued. It's only when you're lawful and justified. It did not promote vigilante justice. That was the refrain. That was the chant coming from Moms Demand Action. But you know who stood up to that heroically? I mean, I testified for the bill, and I had whatever impact I had. We had the local representative from NRA who represents Indiana and several other states come out and testify, did a nice job. So we still had Dr. Chris Kopacki from NRA, did a great job. Say what you want about the national organization of NRA, which is starting to come around, starting to improve. But our local reps have always been great. They've always been awesome. And Dr. Chris Kopacki was a rock star. And we had whatever impact we had when we testified. But the star of that show, who got up to testify, was Kisty Phillips. Here, this single mom from Rising Sun, Indiana, who was a hero for saving the life of an officer. I'll tell you what, she was a hero in the General Assembly as well. An incredible hero. And she gets more credit than anybody else. Not only for the heroic actions she took in Rising Sun, but for what she did in the General Assembly when she stood up to testify. Because it was the most powerful testimony I've ever heard in the General Assembly from anyone, including a private citizen. But she stood up and she said, never forget, we're in the House committee, it was chaired by just a great legislator who retired from the General Assembly before this last session, Jerry Torr. I consider Jerry a dear, dear friend, and he was just a tremendous legislator, and we were lucky to have him in the General Assembly for the 20-plus years that he was there, and also a very important chair of the Judiciary Committee, I believe, in the House at the time. And that's where that bill went, and Jerry was the chair, and we had a whole bunch of people. Again, you have a minority of Democrats, you have majority of Republicans, and Kisty stood up, and I'll never forget, she stood up and she said, listen, I didn't ask to be in my home one afternoon and see a police officer get attacked in my front yard. I didn't ask to have the need and feel the urgency of running out to prevent that officer from dying in front of his own son right there in my front yard. I didn't ask for the situation where I was put in place where I needed to use deadly force. I don't want to shoot anyone. I believe in the 10 Commandments. I believe in thou shalt not kill. I never wanted to be in that position. But I also could not stand there and watch an innocent police officer die in my front yard. And I knew what I had to do, and I did it. But you know what then I didn't ask for? I didn't ask to get sued for millions of dollars. I didn't ask to fear for the ability to keep my house. I have college savings. I'm a single mom. I want to send 2 teenage girls to college. And all that's in jeopardy now because I'm being sued, because the suit was still pending at that moment. And all that's in jeopardy. I could lose everything I have. I could lose my kids' college tuition. I could lose my home. I could lose my savings. I could lose my car. I could lose everything I own. Because I was put in this position that I never asked to be put in. And she delivered it so much more eloquently than I just did. And it was so impactful hearing it directly from her and coming from the heart that I'll tell you what, it didn't seem to affect the Moms Demand Action ladies too much. But other than that, it hit as powerfully as any speech I've ever seen in any context. There were tears from committee members, including from the chair. Tears running down their face, hearing this single mom tell this story of how she didn't want to be in the position to ever have to hurt anyone, much less kill them. But that's the position she was put in, and she shouldn't have to fear for her financial future and her kids' financial future because Indiana law allowed that to happen. And I got to tell you, it was as powerful as they come. And she did the same thing in the Senate, in committee there, and it was eloquent, and it was powerful, and it was impactful, and it won the day. Now listen, I put pen to paper or fingers to keyboard and wrote the words. Kisty Phillips got that thing passed. There's absolutely no question about that. And so that's the law in Indiana today. That's the law in Indiana today. You have complete civil immunity if you use force, justified force in self-defense or defense of a third person. And if some dirtbag lawyer wants to drum up a lawsuit, you can have it dismissed and you can get an award of attorney's fees. And I have used that statute that I wrote and Kisty Phillips pioneered and cheered on and I think got passed in the General Assembly. By the way, introduced and championed in the General Assembly by Jim Lucas, who did a fabulous job for us, one of the best two-way advocates we have in the General Assembly. And Jim did a fabulous job fighting for that as well. But we got that done. And today, I haven't been back out to Front Sight. Again, I went through ownership change, and I don't know if I'll ever go back out there. But I want to sit through that lecture at least one more time. That winning battles 2 and 3, where they talk about, well, you've got to worry about getting prosecuted. Yeah, absolutely you do. And then I want to sit in that lecture hall where it's a big ass room. I mean, there's like 1,000 people plus in this room. And I want to hear the lecturer go, and by the way, if you use force in self-defense, you're going to get sued. You're going to get sued. Just plan on it. I want to stand up in the back of the room. I'm going to be all the way back, and I'm going to stand up and stretch out all, however much is 6'4" is left of me. I'm not sure I'm 6'4" anymore. I'm getting kind of old. But I want to stand up, and I want to yell in the back of the room when he says, you're going to get sued. Just count on it. I want to stand up in the back of the room and I go, not in Indiana. And then explain exactly why. And that's what we got done. That's what we got done in 2019, 6-year anniversary of that going on right now. That's worth a discussion. It's worth a pat on the back to everybody involved, including the hero of the whole situation, Kirsty Phillips. So she deserves that credit, and I was proud to be involved. Right now, we're a little past the bottom of the hour. It's time to take a break. There's more to House Bill 1284 that we're also celebrating. We'll get into that and how we changed Indiana law in a fundamentally different way when we come back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Tony Katz.
Rob Gronkowski is going to be the Indy 500 Coors Light Snake Pit Grand Marshal. That's deflating. See what I did there? See what I did? Come on, that's good. I think that means he's in charge of being somebody who wears pants to model good behavior. I should broadcast from the Snake Pit. Full suit, cigar, broadcasting from the Snake Pit. Challenge accepted.
Tony Katz, mornings 6 to 9 on 93 WIBC and WIBC.com.
Comcast Business helps turn today's small businesses into engines of modern business. It's how restaurants become reliably up and running neighborhood favorites. How retailers become seamlessly restocking, cyber-securing, must-visit shops. And how healthcare offices become the data managing caregivers that we all depend on. With reliable connectivity, enhanced cybersecurity, advanced fiber solutions, and Wi-Fi backup, Comcast Business is powering the engine of modern business. Powering possibilities.
Now through May 4th, new customers can get started with 300 megabit internet and Security Edge for $69 a month for 24 months. And ask how to get free installation on qualifying bundles. Plus, find out how to get a $500 prepaid card on a qualifying gig bundle. Call today. Restrictions apply. Not available in all areas. Requires enrollment in paperless billing and automatic payments with bank account. Equipment, taxes, and other fees extra. After 24 months, regular rates apply.
The deals and specials are sizzling hot. It's the Central Indiana Gun and Knife Show next Saturday and Sunday at the Monroe County Fairgrounds in Bloomington. The best dealers in the region, hundreds of tables, just $6 for adults. Kids 12 and under get in free. Must be 18 or accompanied by an adult. Buy, sell, trade. Next Saturday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. and Sunday, 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. at the Monroe County Fairgrounds in Bloomington. For more info, visit centralindianagunshows.com.
My house has a new glow. I love my windows. Universal Windows Direct.
Hey, it's Rob. Right now, buy 2 windows, get 2 free, no limit. The savings don't stop there. Pay no interest until 2030 plus $500 off your home improvement project. Restrictions apply. Call 317-659-7574. Like me, you'll be saying, I love my windows.
I love my windows. They've got that brand new home effect. Universal Windows Direct.
This hour on 93 WIBC, powered by Reinhardt Heating and Cooling, your American Standard air dealer in Hendricks County.
Fox News, I'm Roger Stern. Just a day after predicting a peace agreement between Russia and Ukraine, President Trump's done a 180.
On Saturday, the president posted on Truth Social, "It makes me think that maybe he doesn't want to stop the war. He's just tapping me along and has to be dealt with differently."
Fox's Jill Nato saying that Trump is reacting to Russia's attack on Ukrainian civilians. Saying goodbye to Pope Francis today with a funeral mass in St. Peter's Basilica.
More than 250,000 people gathered here for the funeral of the 266th pontiff. World leaders were standing at the very front, including President Donald Trump and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky.
Fox's Alex Hogan at the Vatican. America is listening to Fox News.
Why? Why take a chance? Why risk a mistake? Why say something? We all have reasons why we choose to ignore the things that give us pause, that seem out of place, that don't feel right. The word why can either paralyze us or empower us to stand up and protect what we love. So if you see something, why do you say something?
I see safe for my family.
I see safe for my friends.
I see say for my students.
We see say for each other.
I see say because all of this matters.
We all have something worth protecting, a why that unifies this community we're all a part of. So protect your everyday. Report suspicious activity to local authorities. If you see something, say something.
As a caring adult of a 7th or 8th grader, you may see their college plans as a distant process, but in reality, it'll be here in no time. Think about it. Your child could be heading to college by the time you pay off your next car. There's a good reason for middle schoolers and you to start planning their path to college today. This message is brought to you by the Indiana Youth Institute. Indiana's 21st Century Scholarship provides eligible students with up to 4 years of paid college tuition. So here's what you need to know. It is key that we make sure every eligible child is enrolled in the program. Requirements vary dependent upon age, and early sign-up is available for 7th grade students. For more information on the 21st Century Scholarship, visit learnmoreindiana.org/scholars. This Kids Count Minute is a message from the Indiana Youth Institute. For more parent tips, visit IYI.org.
Kids count on you.
The show about gun rights, gun safety, and responsible gun ownership. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back. I'm Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC. Talk about how here just in the last day or so is the anniversary of getting one of the most important bills passed in Indiana. I want to make sure people understand what the law actually is in these areas. Another part of it that people don't think about very much, but it actually laid a very important foundation for constitutional carry. Again, permitless carry, which we didn't get passed for 3 more years. We got it passed in 2022. But what we did in 2019, I say we, this was Representative Ben Smaltz, was the hero behind this part of it, and a lot of other important people. Again, Jim Lucas, Jerry Torr, Peggy Mayfield, and several others in the General Assembly. Aaron Freeman over in the Senate. But one of the big arguments that we'd been facing for years, because again, the total effort on constitutional carry was 10 years. And we kept bumping up against various different stone walls. One of the stone walls we had to overcome was the fact that the money that comes in from applications for handgun licenses was distributed in large part to local police departments for their training. And we had a lot of police departments that came in and said, well, if you pass constitutional carry and people don't have to have licenses, then the number of license applications is going to go way down, which, by the way, has not necessarily been true in every state that has passed constitutional carry. But at least there was some speculation that the number is going to be reduced. They always made it sound like it was going to go to 0, which is just not the case. I mean, as I talk about my gun law class, there's a lot of good reasons to have a license to carry. I've talked about many of them here on the Gun Guy Show. I won't go down that rabbit trail right now. But when the applications go down, then the money is going to go down, and the money then that's used for training of local police department is going to be cut off, and that's horrible, and we can't let that happen. And so one of the big challenges for constitutional carry was to find alternative means to fund those training efforts and to wean police departments off of the money coming from license applications to the state police for licenses to carry handgun. And so what we did in 2019, and it ended up being lumped into House Bill 1284, was to make the lifetime license free. Now, we had made the 5-year license free a few years before, but that was much ado about nothing because nobody really applied for the 5-year license. If you wanted to save some money, you could, I guess. But people that applied typically wanted to get a lifetime license, and the vast majority of people applying applied for a lifetime license. In 2019, we made the lifetime license free, which doesn't sound like a big deal. I mean, it saves you $125 or so, not including the fingerprinting fee, so that's a big deal to me. It's a big deal to a lot of people. But what it really did is it forced the legislature and it forced local governments to find alternative funding sources to make sure the police officers, who nobody wanted the police to lose any funding dollars. Nobody wanted that, me included. And nobody in the General Assembly wanted to see that. But we found alternative means to fund that training by local police departments. Then we made the lifetime license free, and that set us up to really get success on constitutional carry. It didn't happen for 3 more years. We had more hurdles we had to overcome, more barriers we had to get over. But that was a big one, and that was part of House Bill 1284 again. And a big part, a significant part. It doesn't get as much fanfare, and it certainly didn't have the emotional impact. But there was still an important component I haven't gone into yet that probably numbers-wise, other than the free lifetime license, I you know what? Numbers-wise, I think the last part, which I'll discuss here in our last segment when we come back, may impact more Hoosiers and more Hoosier gun owners in particular than any other components of 1284. What was that, and how does it impact Hoosiers? That's what we'll go into on our last segment when we come back. This is Guy Relford on The Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
This May, you've got a chance to see what an IndyCar driver's dream garage really looks like. WIBC's Tales from the Track, presented by Relay Indiana, takes you inside Graham Rahal Performance, a high-octane hangout where racing meets luxury. Hammer and Nigel sit down with Graham for great stories, laughs, and insights from someone who grew up on the hallowed grounds of the IMS. But this backstage pass to speed, style, and surprises is sold out. The only place to register to win tickets is WIBC.com.
Guy Relford for Tactical Firearms Training. Our most popular class is Essentials of Indiana Gun Law. If you like the little taste of law we get into here on the Gun Guy Show, we've got 4.5 hours, much more detailed, including the detailed discussion of the law of force in self-defense, including the justifiable use of deadly force in self-defense. If you carry a gun, don't you have to know when you can pull it, when you can point it, and certainly when you can pull the trigger? That is fundamentally important. Every Hoosier gun owner needs to know exactly what the law is, as well as how to avoid commonly prosecuted crimes like criminal recklessness with a deadly weapon or intimidation with a deadly weapon. We'll get into all of that and a lot more. Our next class is May 10th. We'd love to see you there. It's going to be at Indy Arms. They're at 2550 East 55th Street, just off Keystone on 55th. It's going to be on May 10th. 9 a.m. to 1:30 to 2 o'clock p.m., $50 for an individual, $95 for couples. We'd love to see you there. Sign up right online at tactical-firearms.com. Just click on upcoming courses at tactical-firearms.com.
You let him try violin because you love him. And if you love him that much, love him enough to make sure he's buckled up and in the back seat. Find out more at nhtsa.gov/the right seat. Brought to you by the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council.
Mark Dietl and his team, the only real estate agent we trust to sell our home and to find us a new one. How about Tim and Becky in Bargersville? They were ready to downsize. They tried the big national instant offer route and got jerked around because that company canceled the sale a week before closing. So they called Mark Dietl. Mark stepped in and delivered big time. Tim and Becky had multiple offers in 4 days. They sold as is for the price they needed.
Mark Dietl guarantees your home sold at a mutually agreed upon price and deadline, or he will buy it. That's right, he will buy it. You pick the move date, no long-term contracts. You can cancel at any time. The Mark Dietl guarantee is what separates him from everybody else. And you deserve that because you deserve to make the most money. 317-755-4232. Call Mark Dietl today, 755-4232, or markdietl.com. Mark, D-I-E-T-E-L, markdietl.com.
Premier Deck Coating, the ultimate deck protection.
Who are they? Well, they're a sister company of Rhino Shield, and Premier Deck Coating is the product you need if you're tired of applying the same old stain and paint every couple of years to your deck. It's Terry, Stacy, and David and I have a deck that's probably 25 years old. The countless hours and the money that we spend on maintaining that deck never ends. And then we heard about Premier Deck Coating. Family-owned, based right here in Indy, and they are going to completely transform our deck with their special formulated product, which repels moisture, scratch-resistant in virtually any color that we want, and backed by a 10-year guarantee. No more spending time staining or painting every year. Premier Deck Coating will keep our deck looking great for years to come. Premier Deck Coating can also do fences and pergolas, too. For a free quote, call 317-696-4071 or visit premierdeckcoating.com.
J&V here from Miss M's. The greenhouse is filled with great spring color and tropical plants. Miss M's Home and Garden is your one-stop shop this spring for all things home and garden. Hanging baskets, bedding flats, tropicals, vegetables, herbs, herbaceous perennials, trees, shrubs, home decor, patio furniture, and more. If you need it for your home or landscape, Miss M's has it. Now is the time to get your home beautified for all summer. Miss M's is located on State Road 135 south of Whiteland Road in Bargersville. MissM'sHomeandGarden.com.
Now that spring is here, storms can happen at any time. WIBC will alert you to severe weather from the Chapman Heating Storm Desk. For all your heating, air conditioning, plumbing, and drains, call the man for all seasons. Chapman. Go to ChapmanHeating.com.
The show about gun rights, gun safety, and responsible gun ownership. This is The Gun Guy with Guy Relford on 93 WIBC.
And welcome back for the last segment here of The Gun Guy Show. The last component of House Bill 1284 that we passed in 2019, I say we, the General Assembly passed. I certainly was in the General Assembly fighting for this. In fact, this last component I argued for and testified in favor of 3 straight years. And it was started really by Senator Jack Sandlin, just a wonderful guy. I can't call him a close friend. We didn't socialize outside of the General Assembly, but we certainly worked together on 2A-related bills. And the General Assembly was just a much better place for having Jack Sandlin in it. And it's just a gentleman, law enforcement background, and just an all-around good guy. And he had what I remember was Senate Bill 33, which a lot of people called church carry. And what's the law in this area, and how did House Bill 1284 change it in 2019? Well, there's never been a law in Indiana, at least not since I've been around, and I'm old, so I've been around a long time. There's never been a law in Indiana that says it's illegal to carry a gun in a church. And listen, churches are targets. How many mass shootings have we seen in churches, or attempted mass shootings? We had another hero, a lot like Eli Dicken, Jack Wilson, down in White Settlement, Texas. A few years back, a guy came in with a shotgun, was going to murder as many people as he possibly could at a church congregation. Jack was volunteering as church security. And from, I want to say 15 yards away, 45 feet from the back of the church, made a headshot. One shot ended that mass shooting. And we saw another mass shooting. I want to say Sutherland Springs, Texas. That's off the top of my head. I think that's right. Where 20-some people died. And ultimately there was a shootout involving a person who was across the street from the church in his house, heard the gunshots, ran out with his own AR, and got into a gunfight. Ended up being a rolling gunfight between two vehicles, and ultimately killed the bad guy. And we've seen Oak Grove, Wisconsin, I believe, was another church. We've seen churches be targets. People will want to kill you just because of who you worship, or how you worship, or where you worship. And it could be because of religious fanaticism. It could just be because they're crazy. And they're talking to spirits or devils or demons or whatever. And so, but we know churches are targets. And so we want to be able to defend ourselves and our family and our fellow worshipers when we go to church. I've always felt that way. And like I said, there's never been a law that says you can't carry a gun in a church, but there has been a law for a long damn time that you can't carry a gun on school property. And the issue we faced for generations in Indiana, that House Bill 1284 ultimately fixed in 2019 is the definition of school property says it includes any other building or property co-owned or on the same real estate with a school. And here we're talking about K through 12 and licensed daycares. So how many Catholic churches have a parochial school on the same grounds? I don't know. I'm not Catholic, but I want to say all of them. Damn near. How many churches have a licensed daycare? Now, it has to be a state licensed daycare, and I understand there's a somewhat different licensing system for churches, but my point is an awful lot of churches have schools on the same grounds. And it doesn't matter that the school is not in session when people are going to church. It doesn't matter that there's no kids in the school. It's school property. Whether the school is open and teaching classes or not doesn't matter. And so there can be a church on one side of the street where there's no school or daycare, and it's totally legal to carry your gun there to protect yourself and your family and your fellow worshipers. But across the street, because there's a school on the same grounds, you're committing a felony by possession of a gun on school property. And that was the part of church carry that we fought for and we ultimately won as part of House Bill 1284. And that says that even if a house of worship, and it doesn't matter, church, temple, mosque, synagogue, it doesn't matter. A house of worship that's located on school property, that is school property, that it's not illegal to carry there if you're attending a worship service or a religious ceremony, or if you're performing your duties of employment or your volunteer duties for a house of worship. So if it's a house of worship and you're there to attend a religious ceremony or worship service, you can carry there lawfully in Indiana as of 2019, even though it's located on quote-unquote school property. And so now that frees up. And listen, I always carry a gun. I carry an extra mag more than I usually carry when I go to church. Why? Because I want to be prepared if some crazy person or some religious fanatic comes in and wants to murder a bunch of people at my church. It doesn't make me paranoid. That makes me prepared. And what House Bill 1284 did when it ultimately passed into law was it allows people to do exactly that, even though there's a school or a daycare on the same property. Those are the components of House Bill 1284. Huge change, huge improvement to Indiana law. I was proud to be a part of it. That's it for this week's Gun Guy Show. Hope you enjoy it. Hope you come back. This is Guy Relford on the Gun Guy Show on 93 WIBC.
Look around. Spring is here. And no matter what you're planning or planting, Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. So spring forward in a Hubler quality pre-owned vehicle, including Chevys, Fords, Toyotas, GMCs, Buicks, Nissans, Acuras, Mazdas, Hondas, and many more. All makes, all models, certified vehicles, luxury vehicles, even the hard-to-find ones. Shop any of Hubler's 13 locations and choose from over 2,000 vehicles. Every Hubler Q-certified vehicle is covered by a 100,000-mile limited powertrain warranty, plus a 128-point vehicle inspection and a free Carfax history report. So spring forward, knowing Hubler's got you covered for 100,000 miles. Visit Hubler.com or any of our 13 locations.
Hubler's got you covered. Cover me!
Warranty on select models less than 9 years old.
Spring is here, and it's time to shake off winter's dust, dirt, and allergens. Hi, this is Denny Smith for Zero Res, and if you're ready for a true spring clean, listen up, because this deal won't last. Right now, get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $119 and $75 off air duct cleaning. That's real savings and the perfect way to refresh your home. Winter leaves behind grime and odors and allergens trapped in your carpets and air ducts. And remember, your air ducts are the lungs of your home. If they're dirty, so is your air. Zero Res's patented ZR water cleans with no soap, no residue, and no harsh chemicals. Just fresh, healthy carpets and air. Beat the spring cleaning rush. Call 317-388-5141 or book online at ZeroResIndy.com. And don't take my word for it. Just check out 4,900 5-star Google reviews. Call now. Mention WIBC, get 3 rooms cleaned starting at just $119 plus $75 off air duct cleaning. 317-388-5141 or ZeroResIndy.com.
Spring is here, and Dammons is full speed ahead with endless plant production of perennials, annuals, hanging baskets, roses, and planters. Trucks are arriving with fresh trees and shrubs. Dammons' friendly staff is ready to assist you and get you the help you need. So for any of your gardening